So let's just go over now a couple of different ways we can tweak the UI for Shiny. You already have kind of a default theme with a sidebar panel. Let's go over one with a tab. And I think once you've gone through these two versions, you'll kind of notice the patterns and you'll be able to tweak it with a lot of different settings. Also, we'll talk a little bit at the end about how you can actually do Shiny with a custom HTML function. Okay, so let's just go through this advanced UI example, and then at the end we'll have some final discussion. Okay, so I copied the code from the R Markdown document. Hopefully the first couple of lines are very familiar to you at this point. We're still going to have a sidebar layout, and you can do tabs within a single panel, just with no sidebar, just the tabs. You just need to change the layout. So you can have a different layout with tabs, but we're going to have a sidebar layout where the sidebar is going to have the inputs, and then the main panel is going to have tabs. Okay, but you can also just have one big panel, not with a sidebar, and have it have tabs. Or, as we'll talk about later, you can tweak the UI infinitely with custom HTML. Okay, so our sidebar panel is just going to have 3 text input boxes, and the labels for those inputs are going to be box 1, box 2, box 3. The prompts to the user are going to be enter tab 1 text, enter tab 2 text, enter tab 3 text, and then the starting value is going to be tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Okay, now in the main panel, we're going to have a subset of the main panel called a tab set panel, and this is kind of this nested user interface structure that Shiny allows with its with its syntax here. So we have a main panel, and then we have a tab set panel inside that function. Okay, and type equals tabs, and then we have 3 tab panels, and these tab panel statements are working just like our main panel and sidebar panel functions. They work in the same way. We just have them strung out into one line because they're very short in this case. So our tab panel is going to have a label that says tab 1. It's going to have basically a carriage return to go down a line, and then it's going to have text output out1. So it's going to be looking for out1 from the server.r function. Text output out2. Again, it's going to be looking for something labeled output $out2 from the server.r file, and so on. Okay, so now let's look at our server. Okay, it's going to be a very simple one. Shiny server function input output, so this should all be very familiar. Okay, and there's our output $out1, and it's going to be render text. Okay, because remember what we want to do in this case, when we go back to the UI, we want to display the text, and we're just going to do nothing. We're just going to spit back out whatever the person entered in box 1, box 2, and box 3. So let's go ahead and run that. All right, so here's our three boxes, text boxes for entering in text, and here's our 3 tabs. Okay, so you could just, if you put in, let's put it in tab 2. So if I just put in enter new text, okay, I go to tab 2, it says enter new text. Okay, so that's just a nice little tweak of the UI, and hopefully as you're doing it, you're starting to get a sense of the syntax and how it works a little bit better. Make sure when you're doing all your UI tweaks and everything that you don't have any errors in the R code. RStudio will give you little X's in the code if you've forgotten a comma or something like that. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge with the UI programming in R, is making sure you've closed all your parentheses and added all the necessary commas and that sort of thing. And I think proper indentation and doing your coding in a nice environment like RStudio will really help that tremendously. Okay, so your homework now is to develop a tabbed user interface for Shiny, and just next we're going to go through just some of our final comments on Shiny.